The impact of self-respect on your relationships in 2026. In 2026, relationships are no longer defined only by romance, loyalty, or longevity. They are increasingly shaped by something more foundational and less visible: self-respect. In a world where digital connection is instant, attention is fragmented, and emotional availability is often inconsistent, self-respect has become the silent force that determines the quality, stability, and depth of our relationships. Self-respect is not arrogance. It is not selfishness. And it is not emotional coldness. Self-respect is the quiet inner agreement that you will not abandon yourself to keep others comfortable. It is the standard by which you choose how you speak, what you tolerate, and who you allow close to you. In 2026, this inner standard matters more than ever because relationships without self-respect are no longer sustainable in a fast, overstimulated, boundary-blurring world. Understanding self-respect in the modern era. Self-respect begins with self-recognition. It is the awareness that your emotions are valid, your time is valuable, and your boundaries deserve protection. Unlike confidence, which can fluctuate with success or failure, self-respect is steady. It exists even when you are unsure, even when you are still learning, and even when you are alone. In earlier decades, many relationships were built on endurance rather than alignment. People stayed silent to keep peace, tolerated disrespect to avoid loneliness, and sacrificed their needs to be seen as good partners, friends, or family members. But 2026 marks a shift. People are more emotionally literate, more aware of trauma patterns, and more conscious of the long-term cost of self-betrayal. Self-respect today means asking, does this relationship support who I am becoming? Am I shrinking or expanding in this connection? These questions are no longer seen as selfish, they are seen as necessary. How self-respect reshapes romantic relationships. Romantic relationships are often where self-respect is tested most intensely. Love can blur boundaries, awaken old wounds, and trigger fears of abandonment. Without self-respect, love becomes a place of overgiving, people-pleasing, and emotional dependency. In 2026, self-respect changes romantic dynamics in several powerful ways. First, it transforms partner selection. When you respect yourself, you are less attracted to potential and more attracted to consistency. You no longer chase emotional highs or try to prove your worth. Instead, you choose partners who communicate clearly, respect your time, and put effort into their work without manipulation. Second, self-respect changes conflict behavior. Rather than avoiding difficult conversations or exploding after long silence, self-respecting individuals address issues early. They speak calmly, assertively, and without apology for their needs. They understand that disagreement does not equal rejection and that silence often causes more damage than honesty. Third, self-respect protects emotional balance. Love is no longer about losing yourself in someone else. It becomes a partnership between two whole individuals who choose each other not out of fear, but out of alignment. In relationships grounded in self-respect, love feels safe, not anxious. Passion exists without chaos. Commitment grows without control. Self-respect and friendship in 2026. Friendships in 2026 are undergoing a quiet but essential evolution. As adults juggle careers, responsibilities, healing journeys, and personal growth, friendships can no longer survive on history alone. They require mutual respect, emotional maturity, and realistic expectations. Self-respect in friendship means recognizing when dynamics are one-sided. It means noticing who listens, who shows up, and who only appears when it is convenient. With self-respect, you stop explaining your absence to people who never explain their silence. This does not mean cutting people off impulsively. It means adjusting access. You no longer force closeness where reciprocity does not exist. You allow friendships to evolve or fade without guilt. In 2026, self-respecting friendships are not measured by frequency of contact but by emotional safety. You feel accepted without performing. You feel supported without over-explaining. You feel free to grow without being resented for changing. Self-respect also allows you to enjoy solitude without labeling it loneliness. You would rather be alone than surrounded by people who drain your energy or dismiss your experiences. Family relationships and the courage of self-respect. Family relationships are often the most complex arena for self-respect. Cultural expectations, generational trauma, and long-established roles can make boundaries feel uncomfortable or even disloyal. In 2026, many individuals are learning that respecting themselves does not mean rejecting their family. It means redefining how they engage with them. Self-respect allows you to say no without anger. It allows you to love without tolerating emotional harm. It will enable you to honor your roots while still choosing a healthier path forward. This may be limiting conversations that become disrespectful. It may mean stepping back from roles that require constant self-sacrifice. It may involve difficult conversations about expectations, boundaries, or independence. While these shifts can initially create tension, self-respect often leads to more honest and sustainable family relationships. When you stop playing a role and start showing up as your authentic self, relationships either evolve or reveal their limitations. Boundaries, the language of self-respect. In 2026, boundaries are no longer seen as walls. They are seen as instructions. They teach people how to treat you, what behavior is acceptable, and where your responsibility ends. Self-respect gives you the courage to set boundaries without over-explaining. You do not need to justify your need for rest, space, or clarity. You understand that people who respect you will not require endless explanations. Boundaries protect emotional energy. They prevent resentment. They allow relationships to exist without constant tension. Importantly, self-respect also means respecting other people's boundaries. It means listening when someone says no, honoring their pace, and not taking limits personally. Healthy boundaries create healthier relationships because they replace assumptions with clarity. Self-respect in the digital relationship landscape. The digital world plays a significant role in relationships in 2026. Social media, messaging apps, and online communities blur the lines between presence and absence, intimacy and performance. Without self-respect, digital relationships can become exhausting. Constant availability, comparison, and validation seeking can erode emotional well-being. Self-respect in the digital age means being intentional. You do not measure your worth by response time, likes, or online attention. You do not chase closure through endless messages or tolerate inconsistent communication disguised as being busy. You choose clarity over confusion. You value peace over digital drama. You understand that silence is information and you respect yourself enough to respond accordingly. The emotional ripple effect of self-respect. When you cultivate self-respect, it quietly transforms every relationship in your life. You speak differently. You listen differently. You choose differently. People sense self-respect. It influences how others approach, treat, and communicate with you. You attract relationships that align with your standards, not because you demand perfection, but because you embody clarity. Self-respect also reduces emotional burnout. You no longer overextend, overgive, or overanalyze. You trust your perceptions. You honor your limits. In 2026, emotional intelligence is no longer rare, but emotional self-respect is what turns awareness into action. When relationships end, self-respect does healing. Not all relationships are meant to last forever. In fact, self-respect often reveals when a relationship has reached its natural end. Ending a relationship with self-respect looks different from ending one in anger or fear. It involves honesty, dignity, and acceptance. You grieve without chasing. You reflect without self-blame. You release without needing the other person to understand fully. Self-respect allows you to walk away from situations that diminish you even when love exists. It teaches you that staying in misalignment costs more than leaving with integrity. In 2026, this kind of emotional maturity is becoming a form of self-care. Teaching self-respect through example. One of the most powerful impacts of self-respect is its influence on others, especially children, partners, and close friends. People learn how to treat themselves by watching how you treat yourself. When you set boundaries calmly, communicate honestly, and prioritize emotional health, you model a healthier way of relating. You show that love does not require self-erasure. You demonstrate that respect is not demanded, it is embodied. In this way, self-respect becomes generational. It breaks cycles of silence, resentment, and emotional neglect. Conclusion: relationships rooted in self-respect. In 2026, the most successful relationships are not the loudest or most visible. They are the most grounded. They are built on mutual respect, emotional clarity, and shared responsibility. Self-respect is the foundation of these relationships. It shapes who you allow close, how you communicate, and what you are willing to tolerate. It replaces fear with discernment and chaos with calm. When you respect yourself, relationships stop being places where you lose yourself and start becoming places where you are fully seen. And in a world moving faster than ever, that kind of connection is not just valuable, it is essential.